Aw, someone misses their mommy. Today we're talking about full mask Mark. Is there a reason he decides to cover his face? What happened to the debut of his universe? Well, those are questions that I will attempt to make believable answers for. But unlike my videos about the previous variants, this won't solely be about his possible origin. I'd also like to put into perspective just how dangerous a variant like this could be. You know, some people wonder whether or not he's even evil, or if he even hurt anyone during the war. I'm sorry to burst you guys' bubble, but he's one of the few variants we see floating over a destroyed city. No one else did the damage for him, and I doubt he'd be able to level a city without any casualties. Besides, the fact that he's willing to work with a group of psychopaths and clearly evil people for his own personal gain is enough proof that he's far from innocent, or anything close to a hero. But let's not get too deep into that topic for now. Although Full Mask Mark didn't have too much screen time, with the time he did have, he made a pretty good impression on the Invincible fans. He was one of the only ones that seemed to be somewhat humane. Somewhat. Remember that word. I wouldn't be surprised if his life looked identical to our Mark's for a majority of it before the switch happens. The main thing this variant drives home is how much he misses his mom. So any theories of Debbie being absent from his life fly right out of the window. But then again, I doubt he mostly grew up with Omni-Man. Why? Because if Debbie was removed early on, he'd likely be conditioned to suppress his emotions, much like what we see from Viltrumite Mark. Even coming to the conclusion that she passes away later on in his life, we still have to figure out why and how. A lot of people would immediately assume that her passing would be a result of Omni-Man's actions. And while I do agree that that is very possible, I also think there's a very real chance that it was a result of Mark himself. So I'll go over the arguments for both stances, and if you guys know anything about my theories at this point, you'd know how heavily character designs come into play when creating them. Especially with someone like Art being the creator of most costumes, we know that as a part of his design process, he likes to get to know the person he's creating the costume for. Many people have already pointed out how Invincible's blue suit is a direct contrast to Omni-Man's costume. And what do you know? Mask Vincible has the same colors. I think this is a very intentional decision. We can't get full episodes devoted to each variant, so they sprinkle in little details and information through their designs. Taking this fact into account, we could easily make the argument that this isn't a Mark that sided with his father, which is interesting because he doesn't come across as ruthless as someone like Sinister Mark, or as cold and calculating as Omni Mark, so it's very hard for me to imagine he offed his dad. Think of Omni Mark, but flipped on his head. He's cold, no nonsense, and mature, all things you'd expect from Omni-Man. This variant, however, is a direct contrast. He's emotional, defensive, and conflicted, a lot more human. While it is possible that Omni-Man ended Debbie's life and that drove Mark into acting out of that human anger and offing him, that's not the only way things could have gone. She could have been severely injured due to collateral damage caused by the Chicago fight, or something of a similar scale that was caused by Omni-Man. Main Universe Mark already blames himself for everything, so his mom being one of the casualties caused in that fight would definitely weigh on him. If his Omni-Man was at all similar to ours, he probably wouldn't resist Mark's attempt on his life after realizing what he's done, and that could be the way Mark defeats him, as, you know, him giving up after offing the love of his life. Now, I know he says,
"Not all of us killed Mom."
But is he really a reliable source of information? He's more human than most of the other variants, right? And what do humans have a bad habit of doing? Lying. Not to mention, he doesn't seem to be stable. His words are a little frantic and he gets very defensive over small things. If he did actually off his mom, why would he want her back so badly, you may be asking? Because it was a mistake. Possibly an accident, but probably a mistake. Accidents are actually different from mistakes because accidents are unintentional, but mistakes can be intentionally made within that moment. A lot of people bring up the scene of Mark saying, "Make me," to Debbie shortly after getting his powers, almost as if it were a threat. It's clear that this Mark has a fragile self-esteem, and whenever it's put into question, he lets his emotions get the better of him. I feel like this is what makes him so dangerous. He can appear to be nice or approachable when you hear his motivations, but when you dig any deeper than that, you'd start to understand why Engstrom chose him to be part of the war. However, that's something else you have to take into account. Angstrom has the memories of other Angstroms, so he knows the worst of the worst when it comes to the variants, and this is one he chose. If Mark did off his mom and quickly come to regret it later, it'd make a lot of sense. Kind of like when people rage over video games and break their setup, or someone says something they don't mean in the heat of an argument. It would also explain why he wears a mask. Not because he's disfigured, but because he wants to hide from himself. He doesn't want to look in the mirror and see the face of the person that took his mother's life. Or Omni-Man just offed her to make him sad. Holy crap, guys, we're almost at 10,000. The last time I said that in my last video, we were at a little bit over 7,000. Now we're almost at 9,000, and we all know what comes after that. I just want to say thank you, truly. And the same thing I always say, us YouTubers can't do it without you, you know? And that is so very true. My videos have been extremely successful recently, and I appreciate that more than you know. I'm very glad you guys are enjoying this content because I'm enjoying making it. And there's been multiple times in my YouTube career, I guess you could say, because I have been doing this for, you know, a little bit over 2 years. There's so many times where I used to make videos and spend a lot of time on those videos. And then I kind of felt like, what was it all for, you know? Because they were passion projects, but no one were really seeing them. So it gets to a point as a creator, you know, you're spending hours editing a video, you're, you know, writing everything, you have the idea, you spend like half an hour or an hour on the thumbnail, and just for like 10 people to see it. And that's nice that 10 people clicked on it, but at the same time, you just want your stuff to get out there more. And more than anything, I just want to connect with more people that like the same stuff I like, you know? And Invincible is so peak. It's peak, trust me. And obviously you guys know this, which is why you've been enjoying this series. But don't worry, this isn't all I have to offer. I'm not a one-trick pony. I do have other videos I plan on making, but I kind of want to wrap up this series first before I start doing that. And hopefully you guys stick around, you know, after this ends, after the whole variants, you know, breaking down all the variants. I hope you guys stick around because I enjoyed having you. So yeah, help me get to 10K. I would really appreciate that. And just keep doing what you guys are doing. You mean the most to me, seriously. I just honestly can't even believe I'm where I am now. God did. Thank you so much. And that's all I have for Yap Time. That's all I have. I just have to say thank you. There's no more to say. Like, thank you. Oh my goodness. I'm not going away anytime soon, and don't worry.